morning to you. I'm SuperDerek and welcome back to today's Jrpg weekly update. We've got some news to talk about today, mostly of the Jrpg variety, but a few other things to kind of talk about. Starting with probably what I think is the biggest and most important news to come out on the worst day possible. And that's Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 was announced for North America on April Fool's Day. Why would they do this? What was going on? Come, Nisa, you can't be doing this to us, guys. This is not how you do this. Okay, well, anyways, the game was announced on April 1st, April Fool's Day, amid I would say a healthy amount of skepticism from fans, and I'm really glad that people are exercising their skepticism a bit more these days. And I mean, maybe we should apply this to our everyday life. maybe we should just all start treating every day like April Fool's Day and just believe only the things that are confirmed multiple times by various sources. But anyways, the game was confirmed to be coming out sometime this fall on PlayStation 4, and eventually it's going to come out on the PC and Nintendo Switch in 2021. So that is some pretty exciting news, especially, I mean, I've only just started getting into the Trails series. I've been playing through it over on my Twitch channel. I just started. I'm a little over halfway done, I think, with Trails in the Sky. Like, I just started Chapter 3, basically. It's super fun. And anyways, I wish that I could have come out here and been like, oh my god, I'm so excited for this. I mean, because I am, but I can't just, I can't act like, oh yeah, me and Trails, we go way back. we go way back 3 weeks. But just the same, I'm really excited for all of you guys because I've heard nonstop from Trails fans. You guys are a bit of a rabid group, and I totally get it. So far, my experience with Trails in the Sky has been pretty sweet, and I can't wait to make my review about that eventually. It'll take some time to put together, but from what I've heard from everybody else, the series continues to just be so good, and now it's like 9 games long. And anyways, the fact that we're getting Trails in the Sky, or Trails of Cold Steel 4 rather, here in the West, that's gonna be great. And I have a feeling it's really gaining traction here in the West. I've got a feeling that we'll probably see a few others coming to the West as well here before this is all said and done. But aside from the confirmed news that we got to talk about today, Paper Mario is possibly getting a new entry here on Nintendo Switch before too long. Now, this is definitely rumor mill kind of stuff, but I figure we may as well talk about it since I feel like a lot of other people have already started talking about it. So several news outlets have been reporting on some rumors surrounding several Mario games that may or may not be getting remasters. 3D Mario games may or may not be getting remasters for Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary. And apparently there have been, some informants, and they have pretty good track records. It sounds pretty plausible, all that good stuff. Now, apparently, in this swath of 3D Mario games that are getting remakes, there's also apparently going to be this Paper Mario game that is getting made among the other titles that are in the works. Now, keep this in mind. I'm trying to make it abundantly clear. None of this has been confirmed by Nintendo, and we might not actually see a confirmation of any of this until a Nintendo Direct. Take it all with a grain of salt. Again, pretend that today is April Fool's Day, and yeah, we'll see what happens, right? Fingers crossed, though. And then also, Megadimension Neptunia V2 is coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop in the West, which is pretty awesome. It's already out on the Switch in Japan. It just recently came out. Well, it's coming over to the West, but it looks like it's going to be digital only, unfortunately. The game was originally launched on PC and PS4 back in 2016, though, so physical copies are available for PS4. Now, you can expect to see this come to the eShop this summer. Price, though, and date are kind of up in the air still. Not to be announced, or they are to be announced. They haven't been announced yet, but in Japan, the game is only going for about $40-ish, so hopefully we'll see something similar over here when that makes its way across the pond. Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town is getting a remake. This game was originally launched on the Game Boy Advance back in 2003. 17 years ago. I feel old. And now it's going to be called Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town, in accordance with their rebranding of the Harvest Moon series to the Story of Seasons titles. And if all goes well, we should expect to see this game come to the Nintendo Switch sometime this summer. And then also another game was announced for the PS4 and Xbox One and PC. It's called Mortal Shell. The game appears to be a Souls-like action RPG made by a pretty small indie studio, and I think based on the trailer that I'm seeing so far, it looks really awesome. And that was just announced, so yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that one as this one develops. Now, we did get some release date updates, specifically for The Outer Worlds. This was for Nintendo Switch, that is. Originally planned to come out on March 6th of this year, but that was delayed indefinitely, but with the promise that we would get physical copies where there's actually cartridges inside the boxes, which originally they were planning to ship with empty boxes for some reason and download codes. But anyways, that has been resolved, and now that the whole pandemic thing is playing out, they have a better idea of when this is going to come out. So we're expecting to see it launch tentatively on June 5th of this year. So if you're a big fan of Western RPGs and really love Obsidian like me, then that's good news if you're a Switch owner. Now, some bad news for Western RPG fans, though, is that Wasteland 3 has been delayed until August 28th, actually. It was originally planned to come out on May 19th this year, but they are citing also complications from the pandemic and also the transition to working from home and how that's affecting them. So that's kind of interesting. I guess we'll probably see a lot more of that. I kind of alluded to that last week during the JRPG Weekly Update. A lot of things are going to be up in the air, and this is one of those things. So, in other news, this is kind of like the biggest news. Final Fantasy VII's Remake was released quite a bit early. It was originally planned to release on April 10th for everybody, but several countries ended up getting it early, again due to weird complications of the current pandemic and, you know, all that stuff. So anyways, that's why you've likely started to see some information about these games starting to spread around long before you've even been able to get your hands on a copy, much like myself. And so far, there hasn't really been much of a consensus on the game so far. It's kind of controversial, so, I mean, who saw that coming? But, well, guys, what I do request, though, of all of you, is that if you have played the game, please don't spoil anything. And I know a lot of people are like, can't spoil a 30-year-old game or whatever. No, this is different. So you can spoil a 30-year-old game because they're introducing a lot of different plot points, which are part of the points of contention that some people are up in arms about. So anyways, guys, don't spoil this for other people. And also, if you have played the game and have some thoughts on it that don't go into spoiler territory, feel free to share those in the comments below. For the rest of the world, though, Final Fantasy VII is still planned to launch on the 10th. Indivisible got a few new features added to it in its latest free update to the game. The new additions include a new Game Plus mode and 4-player couch co-op, so definitely check that out if you already own a copy of the game. And also I wanted to do a little bit of house cleaning for last week's episode when I talked about Nier Replicant. So last week I mentioned that Nier Replicant was getting a remake, and I didn't really do a great job of explaining that this game is not necessarily the same exact game as the Xbox 360 release of Nier Gestalt. Now, Nier Replicant is mostly more or less the same game, but it launched on the PlayStation 3 instead of Xbox 360, and it was only released in Japan, and we didn't end up getting that one. So it's got a different kind of protagonist. It's like a younger dude, and that's what we're getting the remake of, and that is actually, in fact, coming over to the West. So we're getting a game that we sort of had already, but sort of didn't, and now we're getting it for sure. So it's kind of complicated, but it should be very interesting. And will be a new way to experience the game for a lot of people who only got to play the 360 version. So there is that to look forward to. Now, in SuperDerek news this week, I did an extra discussion video last week talking about Terranigma versus Trials of Mana, and of the two, which I think made for the better action RPG on the Super Nintendo, because I think that these two, currently at least for myself, represent the absolute pinnacle of that 2D action RPG on that particular console. So if you haven't played either of those games, you do owe it to yourself to play them both because they're so fantastic. And then also you can go check out my video afterwards if you want to see more about my thoughts on the differences between the games and which one I feel ekes out the win over the other. I also have reviews of each of those if you would rather have something to help you decide where to start between the two games, which I will link to there. Yeah, there you go. And also, I wanted to mention to you guys that on Friday evening of this week, Friday at 5 p.m. Central, a good friend of mine, Wood, over at the Beat 'em Ups YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with him, he's a super enthusiastic guy, talks a lot about games that are coming out on the Nintendo Switch especially, but he also does some other things. Anyways, he's hosting a charity stream for families who have been affected by COVID-19, and he's raising funds for Feeding America. So guys, what I would recommend that you do is, if you're at all interested in, if you're at all in a position where you can support other people, definitely check out that fundraiser on Friday, and I will probably see you there because that's most likely where I'll be hanging out. And then that leaves us with this week's JRPG Weekly Forecast, and it's actually really slim pickings this week, as if like there was one big game coming out and nobody else wanted to release any games around it. And I think that we all know which game that is, and that's Final Fantasy VII Remake is finally coming out after all the hype. It's finally happening on the 10th. So look forward to that on the PlayStation 4. And then that leaves us with simply today's question of the week. And my question to you is, do you plan on getting Final Fantasy VII Remake? And have any of the controversies that you've heard over the last, week or so, as people have gotten their hands on this early, has that affected your decision as to whether or not you want to experience this? Are you staying totally in the dark like I'm trying to? Or what are your thoughts? Again, guys, if you have opinions, if you have played it, please do not spoil it, but feel free to share your opinions in comments down below. Anyways, guys, that is about it for me for this week, so thank you for hanging out with me. We will be doing this again on next Monday. If you like your JRPG news hot and fresh the way I like my coffee, make sure you're subscribed. And I also appreciate it when you guys like these videos. I don't usually ask for it, but thank you so much for those who do. Guys, take care, and I will see you then. I am SuperDerek, and this has all been news to me. Stay safe, everybody.